The Chicago Bears had a great opportunity to get their offense on track against the Indianapolis Colts, and they blew it. It's hard not to point the finger first and foremost at offensive coordinator Shane Waldron.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On the show today, we look back over another ugly Chicago Bears loss, this time at the hands of the Indianapolis Colts, in a game that just felt like one big collective missed opportunity. It was a great matchup towards what the Bears had struggled with to get things rolling offensively, and they just weren't able to take advantage. We saw certainly some missed throws from Caleb Williams, and we'll talk about those, but also a continued lack of running game, some really questionable play calls, and some really critical situations for this Bears offense. And once again, this Bears defense doing its job and giving the offense opportunity after opportunity to score, and not being able to take advantage in all of those ways. So we'll kind of look big picture at what we learned from the game after just having watched it happen live. And I think the big takeaway has to be the lack of offensive progress, because this game was exactly what the team was supposed to need to get the offense going. This was the worst run defense in the NFL for the Indianapolis Colts. And one of the biggest Achilles heels of this Bears offense so far had been their inability to run the ball. I mean, they had given up 100-plus yard games the last two games in a row and seemed to have no answers for opposing teams' rushing attacks. And the Bears came out and tried to run the ball a bit, but especially with DeAndre Swift, just could not get things going. And that was the story against the Titans. It was the story against the Texans. And we thought, okay, maybe those are just a couple pretty good defenses that are stopping the run pretty well. Now, surely the Bears can get the running game going against the worst rushing defense in football, but instead, collectively, the Bears get 63 rushing yards on 28 attempts, just 2.3 yards per rush. Their longest run of the game, a 9-yard push up the middle from Roschon Johnson. Like, that's just not good enough. Some of it, I think, continues to fall on this Chicago Bears offensive line, where they're not getting to the second level and making the kind of blocks to get to the linebacker so the running backs can get through the line of scrimmage and break free for some longer runs. I think some of it is on the running backs, and specifically, I think DeAndre Swift continues to not do a very good job of taking full advantage of whatever the offensive line does give him. They're not giving him a ton, but you'd like to see a running back squeeze more out of plays than what Swift has been able to do, especially when you compare him to the other two backs getting carries in this Bears backfield. It wasn't as though Roschon Johnson had some amazing game, but he more than doubled DeAndre Swift's yards per carry in this one. He was the Bears' leading rusher with 30 yards on 8 attempts. 3.8 is not some great performance, but clearly he's been able to get more running behind the same offensive line than DeAndre Swift. And I think despite DeAndre Swift's significant salary, the Bears absolutely need to switch up how they're handing out carries in this offense. We're already seeing it lean a little bit in this game. The first couple games was a lot of DeAndre Swift and not much of anybody else. Already we're seeing Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert combined for one fewer carry than DeAndre Swift. Swift had 13, Roschon had 8, Herbert had 4. So Johnson and Herbert had 12 combined compared to Swift's 13. So it's not a one back workhorse type of situation anymore, and it's trending towards Roschon Johnson getting more opportunities. But even Herbert had more yards per carry than Swift in this game. It was a struggle every time Swift held on to the ball. And I think sometimes it's a lack of patience for him. Sometimes it's misreading the blocks for him. But regardless, the Bears couldn't run the ball. So that makes them extremely one-dimensional on offense in this game. They then ask Caleb Williams to have to pass 52 times over the course of this game. He ended up having, I think, the single-game rookie record with 363 passing yards for the Bears, 52 pass attempts, 63.5 completion, but it leads to some missed throws, some interceptions, and we'll talk more about Caleb Williams in a minute here. But I think the more frustrating thing for Chicago Bears fans was just how many strange calls and missed opportunities it felt like this Bears team had. You know, when you get first and goal and you try and pound it up the middle a couple times and don't get in, you get down to fourth and goal and you run a speed option play to the outside. And of course, it's a huge run for like a loss of 12 or whatever from Swift by the time he actually went down at the end of that play. Like, it just was mind-boggling that that's your 4th and 1 call in that situation. And the Bears said after the game, well, okay, they liked that play call because the Colts on the goal line there, they go to like 6 defensive linemen and 1 linebacker. So you like to think, okay, if you can get the speed to the edge, you'll beat them to the corner because they got a bunch of heavier personnel in the field. But that requires you to like get out in space and block guys out in space, and your offensive line hasn't been able to consistently do that in the running game here. You just get weird calls all along. You get, at the goal line, one of the previous handoffs on that play, you've got DeAndre Carter, your 5'9" wide receiver, blocking a defensive end, who of course crashes in on the run and makes sure that they don't get the touchdown on that play. Like weird calls there. Like some little things that bother me too. Like there was a play where they send Rome Odunze in motion, like on a jet sweep kind of look, and they sort of fake the jet and then toss it to the running back, going in the same direction as the jet sweep. So like the fake brings the attention to the same side as the running play that they then toss to. So the fake didn't fake anything. If anything, it actually directed the defense to go the right way. It's stuff like that. Or they come on the 2-point conversion after the timeout, where coaching was again an issue here because they came out for the extra point instead of going for 2, and then they called the timeout to come out and go for 2, and you come out with this quads look. They had 4 receivers to the right and 1 to the left, and then they motion, Herbert from the right side across the backfield in an orbit motion there. And it's just like, do we have to try and fancy up and doll up everything and try and outsmart them all the time? Like, can we just do the basic stuff right first and then try and get to the more creative, fancy stuff? Like, can we just get under center and run the football successfully and then branch out from there? Like, they went to a wide receiver reverse in the second half. Like, just weird stuff that just never felt like it was part of a plan of plays building off of each other. And that's where so much of it feels like it falls on your offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. Just like the Bears had the ball in scoring opportunities and couldn't take advantage. The defense gave them turnovers. They couldn't take full advantage. It wasn't until the fourth quarter when the Colts defense, takes the foot off the gas and they go a lot more conservative drop back zone, Caleb gets into a rhythm and drives them down and scores, and looks like something that you were hoping to see more of throughout his early career and throughout that game. Like, instead we get too many plays where, Cole Kmet is one-on-one blocking the defensive end in pass protection. I mean, it's just stuff like that is been infuriating about this Bears offense, where it feels like you're not putting your receivers in the best position to be successful. You're not putting your running backs in the best position to be successful. And you're certainly not putting Caleb Williams in a spot to maximize his development and make his job as easy as possible. That doesn't mean Caleb Williams doesn't deserve some of the blame, though, in this loss as well. I didn't think he was terrible by any means, but there was good and bad from Caleb that I think overall looked like progress to me. So we'll focus in specifically on this young quarterback and then take a look at what this Bears defense did well and maybe struggled on occasionally as well. Next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. DoorDash is the best way to get all of your favorites delivered right to your door. Whether it's game day and you want to get some hot, fresh wings or pizza or whatever it is brought right to your door, or you want to reload on snacks at halftime, or even your grocery delivery, DoorDash has it all covered for you. It's a great opportunity where even if you have an ugly football game like the Bears had against the Colts, you can make it better with that meal from your favorite restaurant, your favorite local restaurant. You can support them without missing any of the game and not leaving the comfort of your couch. It's super convenient. I love using DoorDash. When you're too busy to go out and get the food, or you don't want to miss all the action, DoorDash is there to make it super easy for you. And we're here to help you get a deal on your next DoorDash order. Use our promo code LOCKEDFALL24 for 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Limited time offer, terms apply, and promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness. Your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now to order your game day favorites. Must be 21 or older to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol only available in select markets. The offense as a whole struggled once again. Caleb individually seemed to make some progress here. I mean, again, the stat line is the best we've seen from him so far. The passer rating, the best we've seen from him so far. And for some stretches there in the second half especially, the offense got into, at least in the passing game, more of a rhythm than we've seen so far. I mean, it's nice to see Rome Odunze gets 6 catches for 112 yards and a score. DJ Moore, 8 catches, 78 yards. Cole Kmet, 10 catches, 97 yards and a score. Like, okay, things got rolling offensively with Caleb in a way that we hadn't yet seen through the first 2 games. And yet, they get 16 points out of it, 13 of those in the fourth quarter. Again, some of that being the Colts defense letting up a bit at the end there. And 3 quarters of really, really inept offensive football overall. And I think some of that was some missed throws from Caleb Williams. And some of that was some really questionable play calling there, and then the lack of running game, and the offensive line is in there as well. And that's where I think you kind of get into this mess. Like, I don't like to play too specific of like a blame game. Okay, are we going to say this was 60% Shane Waldron and 20% offensive line and 20% Caleb Williams, whatever? Whatever. You don't have to find the exact mixture here. But like when I think back and go through some of the drives from this game, you can kind of find the opportunities where this Bears offense, had some things going, but then couldn't finish drives. I think like early on in the game, there are a couple drives you get into third down, and Caleb just misses Rome Odunze on a deep shot. And you know what? Okay, like that one's on Caleb when he misses an open receiver, but it's also the kind of things you expect will take a little bit of time for a rookie quarterback to dial those more difficult downfield throws in, especially, when you see him come back later and connect with Odunze on some really nice downfield throws. It's sort of the evidence that you're looking for that, hey, like when he misses one of those, I don't know that it's this symptom of, he's just, he's all of a sudden some inaccurate passer, and feels more like correctable rookie mistakes in games like that. But then you have drives where, you get a big sack on second down because there's some instant pressure in Caleb Williams' face, and you get third and a mile, and not a lot of opportunity for the offense to really get rolling there. You also have the 2 interceptions that were both pretty bad plays overall. The ball is out late, especially the first one to Colts Jalen Jones on the sideline there. Like, his feet aren't set. He's got pressure in his face. He's floating one out to DeAndre Carter on the sideline. Easy for the cornerback to jump it, and they were kind of lucky that one didn't end up going to the house or something like that. Like, that was a bad decision and a ball that Caleb Williams should not throw. The other one was kind of a jump ball thing towards Rome Odunze that it was double covered, so it wasn't a good decision, but it was also kind of an unlucky interception because, like, it kind of gets tipped up, and then the corner caught it like with one hand kind of away from his body. Like, it was an impressive interception. I think it was a less disastrous of a decision/throw from Caleb there, but still not a smart one, but not nearly as like kind of boneheaded as the first of the interceptions there. Like, there were certainly drives here that missed throws or poor decisions from Caleb Williams absolutely tanked a couple of those drives. But you also had him get the Hail Mary throw into the end zone and caught at the 1 yard line. Like, stuff like that is an inch away from a 45-yard touchdown pass. Instead, it's a 44-yard completion that goes for nowhere. You also have a missed field goal. Caleb at least got him into field goal range on that drive, but I guess technically it's not field goal range if Cairo Santos doesn't have the leg to hit that one because it was straight but just didn't have enough distance on it there. But like, it just kind of felt like there were a couple times here where they'd start to get something going, and then it'd be a Williams miss here or an offensive line mistake there. I thought overall the pass protection was generally better than it had been the last couple of games. It just felt like, man, even when the Bears defense would hand them a turnover, they just couldn't really drive down and do anything about it. Then, of course, there's the strip sack from Latu in the fourth quarter that opens some things up, and the Colts score again right away on that one. And then, at least with Caleb through the course of this game, every time there was a mistake, the interception, the fumbles, the sacks, whatever it was, he did a really good job of responding. I mean, the last strip sack results leads into a Colts touchdown. I mean, they get the ball in the red zone basically and score. That's when the Bears came out and marched down the field and got that touchdown to bring it within 5 points at the very end there. The touchdown to Cole Kmet. Like, Caleb was never fazed by, I'm throwing 52 times, by we can't run the ball, I've thrown 2 picks, things are falling apart here, the pressure's on. Still, quick passing, getting in rhythm, moving the ball down the field and connecting. And they even got some more of a vertical game going there. Not a perfectly vertical game, but, has the 47-yard completion to Rome Odunze. Obviously, the Hail Mary counts as a vertical passing game for 44 yards. Another one to Odunze for 27. Cole Kmet went up the middle for 19. Like, they were able to open things up a little bit offensively. And that is progress by definition. But it just felt like against the Indianapolis Colts defense in particular, it needed to be so much better. Caleb needed to be better. The offense needed to be better. You should have been able to run the ball. You should have been able to put a lot of points on the board. Like, Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers beat this Colts team without too much trouble. CJ Stroud and the Texans put up 27 points on this Colts defense without too much trouble along the way. Like, this was a vulnerable defense for the Bears to take advantage of, and they just absolutely were not able to do so. And I think a lot of that's on Shane Waldron. Some of that's on Caleb Williams. Some of that's on the offensive line. Some of that's on playmakers got to make plays, too. I mean, running backs got to make more out of the running game. Receivers got to make more plays after the catch, although that started to turn a corner at the end of this game, too. And maybe this fourth quarter can be enough of a boon that even in a loss, you say, hey, we saw what this offense is supposed to kind of look like on those last couple of touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. Like, that's a little bit more of what the vision is, minus the running game, but like it was the formula was showing some signs of life. So maybe you can take that fourth quarter, what was working there, take that into next week against another struggling defense, the Los Angeles Rams, which had a bunch of injuries and stuff that's not making life easier for them. And I mean, I don't know, are we still in a position where we can have hope that this offense is going to figure things out? Or because we just saw 3 quarters of really, really bad, ugly offense, and then a half a quarter or 2/3 of a quarter in the fourth of something that looking more like offense. But I think as long as Caleb continues to show us these kind of throws and these stretches of looking like the real deal, you always have a little bit of hope that this is going to come together, especially with the weapons on the offense, and that maybe, just maybe, Shane Waldron can start to figure some more things out. I mean, it's hard to, I think he's lost the benefit of the doubt now through 3 weeks. Through 3 weeks of not good offensive football, you've lost the benefit of the doubt of the offensive coordinator, so he needs to get a lot better so they can actually take advantage of when this Bears defense continues to give them certainly winning defensive performances, even if it maybe wasn't elite by the end against the Colts. Like, it was, the defense did their job. They did enough to win this game, even though it was 21 points. That a lot of that 21 comes from the Caleb Williams strip sack that is basically a walk-in touchdown for the Colts at that point. Like, I don't blame the defense for all 21 of those points. They did a great job. And once again, like, we need to make sure that even in a loss, you're recognizing that this defense is playing really well. And it's kind of that traditional of Chicago Bears football. Great defense, terrible offense, and the offense can't even be average. It's not enough to win some of these games. But the defense holding up its end of the bargain. We'll take a look at what they were able to do so well against Anthony Richardson and where, I don't know, do we need to be concerned about all the rushing yards they gave up to Jonathan Taylor? That's next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. The Bears obviously weren't able to cover the spread against the Indianapolis Colts in this one, but there's always opportunities to bet live and in-game or ahead of time in the FanDuel app on your Chicago Bears and all of your favorite sports. Baseball season rounding into playoff form. You can bet on WNBA games, college football, so much more, all in an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. Right now, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. A $5 bet on anything, win or lose, FanDuel is going to give you $200 extra added into your account as bonus bets that you can use to bet on all of your favorite teams. So, to get that $200, just place a $5 bet by going to our friends at FanDuel.com. This Bears defense continues to come to play. And I think as the frustration mounts about this Bears coaching staff, about Matt Eberflus and, the timeouts and the game situation stuff, the clock management, like, you got to give them credit. Like, this defense is still really, really good. Like, for everyone who might already be thinking about, okay, do you change head coaches at some point here? Like, it's going to be a real consideration of, like, the defense is still playing really well. Maybe the Colts offense isn't a well-oiled machine, but they shut down Anthony Richardson. Like, I think if I had told you yesterday, before the game, or Saturday or Friday or whenever you were listening, whenever, if I told you ahead of this game that Anthony Richardson would finish 10 for 20, just 50% completion, for 167 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 39 passer rating, you would think the Bears had completely shut down everything the Colts wanted on offense, and you might be surprised that they lost 21-16. Maybe you wouldn't be surprised that they only scored 16, but you'd be surprised that they gave up 21 points when you shut down Anthony Richardson that well. I mean, they picked him off twice on a couple of bad throws, including a touchdown-saving interception in the end zone by Tremaine Edmonds. I mean, that was a huge play and a huge swing in this game. And that's what this defense you've been able to count on for, is like not just turnovers, but like critical turnovers in huge situations that legitimately swing points in the game. It's not just like, okay, it's a random 2nd and 10 at midfield and they get a pick. It's like, nope, in the end zone, taking 7 points off of the board and giving your offense the ball back with a touchback. Like, huge swings. And I think in each of the first 3 games, you've seen big turnovers that absolutely shape the outcome of this game and put the Bears in such a better position to be successful there. Like, it's absolutely critical when they make these plays. They also had 5 other pass breakups, PDs, passes batted on Anthony Richardson as well. So like 7 different times the Bears were getting at least fingertips on Richardson passes, and they probably could have had at least 1 more interception altogether now. Like, they definitely benefited from Richardson missing some open throws, but they also were able to fully take advantage of Richardson making those throws. And I think that's one of the differences between the Bears defense we're seeing now and some of the Bears defenses we saw in previous years, even the first half of last year, where it's just like they couldn't, in the past, they would get opportunities from opposing quarterbacks, but couldn't really capitalize on them. And now they are dialed in to be able to, yes, make those interceptions and make those touchdown-saving turnovers that give this Bears offense every opportunity to get back in this game and try and win it. Now, on the flip side, they did struggle a bit to corral Jonathan Taylor, and he finished with 110 yards on 23 carries, almost a 5-yard clip there, 2 touchdowns, and a couple of those runs were way too easy for him. And I think after they had some run defense issues against Tony Pollard in week 1, it's something to keep an eye on here. I mean, it's easy enough to chalk it up and say, well, Jonathan Taylor is a really good running back. I mean, he made some gorgeous cuts in this game, reads blocks really, really well. Like, there's a lot to like about how Jonathan Taylor is, and this Colts offensive line is actually pretty good. Like, this was a tough matchup for the Bears defense, and some of it, I will grant you can chalk up to, like, good back, good running game. All right, they're like, good players are going to get one on you sometimes. That's fair. Like, Kevin Byard took a really, really bad angle on Jonathan Taylor's 29-yard touchdown run. Like that, sometimes it's you making your own mistakes in there too. But I'm also a little bit concerned because, like, Pollard and Taylor, the 2 backs that have had a lot of success against them, like, it's a lot of downhill north-south running, kind of up the middle on this Bears defense. Whereas, like, they shut down Joe Mixon and the Texans because it was east-west horizontal stretch runs against the Texans, and the Bears linebackers can flow and follow the outside runs really well. It's the getting downhill and the linemen are meeting you at the point of attack and just trying to push you back, right down your throat, that the Bears seem to have struggled a little bit on there. So, like, certainly I'm not blaming the Bears defense by any means for losing this game or anything like that. It's just like, okay, if we're going to be honest in our assessment of them, they did a great job. They did everything they needed. They shut down the passing game. In theory, that Jonathan Taylor performance should not have been enough to win the game for the Colts. The Bears offense absolutely was the reason the Bears lost this game. But okay, in that being said, the defense can still do better in the running game there, and something we'll keep an eye on here as the team moves forward. I could also say they only got 1 sack on Richardson. I mean, they hit him 3 other times, and I think they got decent pressure overall. He's a tough guy to bring down, but there's always room for improvement for this Bears defense. But I think overall, like, this was every opportunity you could give them offensively. Because I think, when you look back at where the Bears made some of their big stops in this game, right? The first interception was in the end zone to give the Bears a touchback. They weren't really able to do anything with that, though, because, the Bears defense had just gotten burned by a deep shot from Richardson, and then gets in the red zone and throws the interception. Caleb Williams gets the ball back, hits that deep shot to Rome Odunze, and then 2 plays later, or whatever it was, throws the interception. So it's like the offense had the sudden change, and it's like, all right, first play after the turnover, huge bomb. All right, like things are cooking. Let's take advantage of this turnover. And then intercepted right back the other direction. Then they're kind of backed up and to get another big play, and Jonathan Taylor gets the easy rushing touchdown. And all of a sudden the Colts somehow found a way. The Colts found a way to take better advantage of the Bears interception than the Bears did of the Colts interception that happened right before it. Like it was bang, bang, back and forth, but the Colts are the one that finished theirs with a score, and the Bears are the one that ended up really getting nothing out of that first interception that the Bears defense handed them. Then as you go later in the game, when the other interception happens for this Bears defense, it still feels like they're not able to do much with it there. It's a first down play, and he takes the shot for Pittman that Jalen Johnson just, runs over and grabs. But the Bears start with the ball at the 48-yard line after that pick. It's midfield. And then, they get one play to Cole Kmet for 15 yards, but they end up settling for a 53-yard field goal on that drive where it's like they basically started the drive in field goal range. They moved the ball forward about 15 yards on 4 plays, but it just didn't feel like, man, you're getting this great field position. Do something with it. And that's where again, I think this Bears, the impact of this Bears defense ends up being a little bit like underrated or underrepresented in the box score, because even when they would give the offense great field position, they couldn't take advantage of it. And those are the kind of things that would make a big difference in this game. If those turnovers lead to Bears points, it's a Chicago Bears victory. But instead, they got 3 points off 2 interceptions. And in the first half, this Bears offense ran 49 plays and had 0 points. Like, it's stuff like that erases what was otherwise a strong defensive performance. And the 21 points they allowed really doesn't reflect what that group was able to do against the Colts offense. And if the Bears offense scores on a few of those other drives, they don't end up even giving up the 21 points to the Colts in this game. And it's a much better Bears victory. Like, that's what we were expecting from this game. The Colts were a good matchup. The Bears should have been able to run the ball, should have been able to get play action and stuff going off of that, should have been able to open up the passing game before the fourth quarter, score some points. We talked about on the preview last week that the Bears were going to get some interceptions off of Richardson. Bears were going to give their offense good field position. The formula was there to beat the Colts, and they couldn't do it. And that's what's so frustrating. Fortunately, they have a couple easy games ahead of them with the Rams and the Panthers. Although Andy Dalton had a big 300-yard game for the Panthers, so, easy is always a relative term there. And nothing looks easy for the Bears offense this season. But you can be sure we'll break down what's to come in those matchups. I still want to go through some of the All-22 film from this Bears-Colts game once we get a chance to do that on Monday, or as this podcast comes out for tomorrow's Tuesday podcast. We'll break down this game for you and look bigger picture at some of these offensive concerns moving forward. So to keep up with all of our daily Bears news and analysis, make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, and keep making Locked On Bears your first listen each and every day. If you're looking for a second listen, go check out the Locked On NFL podcast. It's new Locked On NFL. First, with 2 shows every day. First, it's First, it's the madman Tyler Rowland, who kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. And then you can stop by the barber shop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk alongside our Locked On Podcast Network experts. I co-host it with Tyler Rowland on Tuesdays. It's the Tuesday morning podcast on Locked On NFL. So if you want some more of that, go check that out tomorrow. Keep making Locked On Bears your first listen. And even after a loss and an ugly offensive performance, I'll still make sure to find a way to give you an opportunity to bear down.